to the second in our Global Lectures series. And I want to ask you, the students, a question first. Do you know the difference between a world-class education and just getting a degree? Anybody? Do you know the difference between a world-class education and just getting a degree? Well, let me tell you, this here, that's the difference, right? And so I want to congratulate all of you, first of all, that you made the choice of coming here this afternoon to listen to this lecture. I don't know, that must have been some sign from somebody. No, I want to congratulate, I think you made a great choice being here this afternoon. The reason why is simply you need to know more than just the field that you study. All right? I've said that before. If you're a nurse, for example, or a doctor in a hospital, you need to be able to speak with your patients not just about the cancer that's killing them or some other disease that they may have. You may want to take their mind off that. So you need to be able to engage with your patients on a different level. You need to be able to have conversations, intelligent conversations with people at different levels, not just in the field that you're studying, not just in the field where you're getting a degree, as important as the degree is. If you are studying accounting, any accountants here this afternoon? No? Not one? Oh, there are some. Okay, great. If you're an accountant or you're studying international business or you're studying finance and you're looking to get an investment for your business or you're looking for an investment into your city, you need to be able to go to the bar after the board meeting where you presented your business plan, and you need to be able to speak with the people that you presented your business plan to on a different level about current affairs, about political matters, about global matters, about popular culture. Those are the things that make a difference. And those make a difference in the sense also that they will get you that contract and that investment you were trying to get earlier. So again, you made the good choice being here this afternoon. I congratulate you to it. And this is the reason, because we are offering you a world-class education, that we started this global lecture series to bring here maybe 2 or 3 times a year some very high-level speakers who have a background in global affairs, who have international experience, who can talk to you about a lot of important and interesting matters with a lot of information and a lot of experience that they're bringing to the table. This afternoon we have our second speaker in the series. I'm very happy to have my good friend Dr. Patrick Mendis visiting Wenzhou-Kean University. Dr. Mendis and I met some 20 years ago in Austria for the first time, and we have stayed in touch since then, and we have published together as well. Dr. Mendis has a long list of accomplishments, and you can go to his website afterwards. I'm not going to read all of this to you, but I want to tell you some of it, the highlights. And I'm sure I'm forgetting some very important ones. So Patrick, please encourage me. Dr. Mendis has earned a doctorate, a PhD in geography and applied economics and agriculture from the University of Minnesota. He has an MA, a master's degree in international development and foreign affairs from the Hubert Humphrey School of Public Affairs, and he has a Bachelor of Sciences in Business Administration and Economics from a university in Sri Lanka, and I'm not going to attempt to pronounce that name. I'm sorry. Dr. Mendis is currently a senior fellow at Harvard University He's there at the Kennedy School of Government at the Ash Center for Democratic Governance and Innovation. But he's also has long links to China. And so now he is also a visiting fellow at Beijing University School of International Studies, as well here in Zhejiang province. He is a visiting professor of international politics at Zhejiang University in Hangzhou. Dr. Mendis has authored several books. His most recent one is called Peaceful War: How the Chinese Dream and the American Destiny Create a Pacific New World Order. In 2012, he was appointed by then Secretary Hillary Clinton. Have you heard of Hillary Clinton? Okay, good. That's a no-brainer. Hillary Clinton appointed him as a commissioner to the United States National Commission to the UNESCO, the United Nations Organization for Education and Sciences. And then he was reappointed by John Kerry. Have you heard of John Kerry? Now I got you. John Kerry was running against Obama, actually, in the presidency. He's now the Secretary of State of the United States. John Kerry reappointed Dr. Mendis to this position at the UNESCO. Dr. Mendis also authored a book called Trade for Peace, and another one entitled Commercial Providence: The Secret Destiny of the American Empire. And then finally, he has a book out that's called Glocalization. Have you heard that term? Glocalization? Yeah? No? It's a combination of two words: globalization and localization. So it's glocalization. It's the confluence, the coming together of international forces at the local level. So his book title is Glocalization: The Human Side of Globalization, as if the Washington Consensus mattered. So with that said, I'm very happy, I'm very proud to introduce to you and welcome Dr. Patrick Mendis this afternoon. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Professor Holger Hanke, and also the Vice Chancellor and the party chairman, Frank, and the distinguished faculty and students and friends. I'm very honored to be here. I come to Zhejiang University in Hangzhou very often, but I never went to Wenzhou. This is my first time. This is my 27th university in China. So I'm very honored to be here today with you, and it is a distinct honor to learn from you. And as I yesterday climbed the Yandang mountain to see some of the natural beauty that you has offered to this part of the country. Today I'm going to talk to you about President Xi's One Belt, One Road strategy, and also President Barack Obama's Trans-Pacific Partnership, which they just completed last Monday in Atlanta, Georgia. So what does that mean to China and America? I will talk about later on the future prospect for China-American relation in terms of economic development, trade and investment, and commercial engagement, and even the education. And I anticipate more and more Sino-American exchanges in culture and science going to be increasing. As a matter of fact, during the Bush administration, I was the Secretariat Director of the US State Department Education and Cultural Affairs, which runs all the Fulbright and Muskie and Humphrey and all the exchange program for the US government. So I'm very honored to be part of that tradition to be an ambassador of cultural and educational exchange to this country and to elsewhere in the world as well. So given that background, I also worked for the US Department of Defense. I was a NATO professor in Europe, and then I came to teach in Japan and South Korea. Then I was introduced to China when I came to Xi'an, your ancient capital of China, to teach in the Northwestern Polytechnic University. That's many, many years ago. Then I returned to the State Department, worked for President Bill Clinton during that years, and George W. Bush, and then now the political appointment by the Bush administration, the Obama administration, sorry. So what I'm going to talk to you is my own personal views. It's nothing to do with the US government. This is my own views. Some of are coming from my book. And nothing is attributed to the government of the United States of America. So here, before we talk about the future prospect of US-China relation, I want to take you back to the history that President Xi talks about when he took his leadership, when he became the leader of your country. First time he took them to the National Museum in Beijing. President Xi and Premier Li and other leaders said, we have a new vision for the country, it's China Dream. In order for you to look for the future, China needs to look for the past. I'm going to take you back there and bring you back over here again, and then to the future prospect. So as you may know, China and America has some tensions, largely in South China Sea, and you had the East China Sea when you come to Japan, and South China Sea in the Spratly Island, which claimed by some other countries, Vietnam and the Philippines. So here, China has their own manifest destiny, just like America has. I also said China has their own form of Monroe Doctrine, just like America has or had. That is the way American leaders look at China. They are looking through the American prism, American history, try to understand China. For example, our head of the national intelligence, General James Clapper, said China has been quite aggressive about asserting what they believe to be manifest destiny. He used the American term to try to understand China. What is American think about a manifest destiny? Is that China is going to do the same thing? Or Chinese are in the South China Sea, in the East China Sea, it is the Monroe Doctrine. No foreign powers should come to our hemisphere. That's what the James Monroe talked about. Is China is using the same kind of doctrine when you come to Diao Island in the East China Sea or the South China Sea, Spratly Island. No foreign powers. This is our part of the world. In fact, this is the East China Sea and this is the South China Sea. This is ours. Is that the case? Is that the way America wants to understand China? So, national intelligence chiefs mentioned about to the US Congress when he was testifying. And early this year, he went to the Senate Armed Services Committee headed by the Senator John McCain. He reiterated this. He said, Beijing is aggressive effort to national sovereignty. He's referring to the South China Sea. So this is the way America tried to understand China. So then the chairman of the Senate Armed Services Committee, Senator John McCain, said, China is in fact, according to the satellite information, are building a harbor and airstrike. It is more than just the peaceful purposes. They have another hidden purpose in South China Sea. So that is the way our leaders try to understand China. And at the same time, President Xi has the China Dream initiative. When he thinks about China Dream, the future, he also looks at the past. You know, China is called the Middle Kingdom. The emperor is the heaven, the mandate from heaven. It is to create a celestial empire. So is that what the presidency is trying to do? Create a celestial empire, bringing the history back, claiming the territorial waters for China. According to the Chinese political and military leaders, it is not so. You cannot understand China through American prism. It is not the manifest destiny. It is not the Monroe Doctrine. It is even not the Marshall Plan. Rear Admiral Ying Chuo said, our Silk Road, one belt, one road strategy is not the American-like Marshall Plan. The Marshall Plan was created under George Marshall, then the Secretary of State, who gave his famous lecture at Harvard University. So he dubbed as the Marshall Plan to honor him. After the World War II, America won the war in Germany and also in Japan after we bombed the Hiroshima and Nagasaki. So we need to rebuild. The rebuilding effort, the reconstruction is called the Marshall Plan. Matter of fact, my own mentor, Ambassador Harlan Cleveland, who was the former NATO ambassador, he was the dean of the Humphrey School. He was the first administrator here in Beijing under Marshall Plan, 1947. And he is part of this legacy to create the Marshall Plan. But according to the Chinese leaders, Rear Admiral Yin, he said, President Xi's One Belt, One Road initiative is not an American-like Marshall Plan. You need to understand China itself. You cannot look at the American doctrine to understand China. So what is then this Silk Road, if it is not the Marshall Plan? Silk Road is starting from the first dynasty, Qin dynasty, until the Qing dynasty, until Dr. Sun Yat-sen came into power in 1911. During that time, all the way through, you had the Silk Road, starting from Xi'an, the ancient capital of China, all the way to the Europe. And this came to the height of the Chinese civilization during the Tang dynasty. So this is the northern route of the silk from the Tang dynasty. It is the highest dynasty, it's the most cosmopolitan dynasty in China. What did they use this Silk Road? Purely for commercial purposes. You sent porcelain, silk, and tea through this Silk Road to the west. In return, you got the religions like Buddhism came from India and integrated into the Taoism and Confucianism and created this three stream into one called Chan Buddhism, which you have now. So not only you export goods, and you also imported the religious doctrine, religious thinking into your country. And ever since then you exported Buddhism to South Korea and Japan as well, and to the Vietnam. So this is the cosmopolitan China that they are talking about. China is not only the bringing other religion and exporting, but the integration the world. And President Xi wants to develop this one, not now through the camels and horses, but high-speed trains and planes. For example, now if you go to Chengdu in Sichuan province, you have a direct flight to Europe. It is the Western development, because you have already, maritime development is already taking place, advanced in the quality of life of Chinese people. Now China is going westward. That going westward is very important part of Chinese civilization as well. This is the mechanism which you use to go westward. And then after the Tang Dynasty, this is the height of that Silk Road civilization or cosmopolitan China. There is another dynasty came through, in the Ming Dynasty. Admiral Chong He, who is from Yunnan province, who is a Muslim eunuch, who was close advisor to the Ming Emperor. He traveled through China, through South China Sea to the Western Ocean. This is just like this part is called the China's West Ocean. The Indian Ocean is for you in the ancient time is the Western Ocean. Remember, to the comparative understanding of Admiral Chong He's 7 voyages to Africa and Middle East. He also visited my country of Sri Lanka 3 times. Here, Admiral main purpose is to tell the world. He went to more than 30 countries. It's a diplomatic mission. His purpose was to tell the world there is the emperor, the heavenly emperor. You need to respect him. In turn, they exchange goods. This is very different from the colonial empire that Europe had. You had the Portuguese, Dutch, and English came to this part of the world, and they took your land. China had never has a history of taking any of these land that Admiral Chong He went. He essentially want to say, hey, we have a mandate from heaven. This is the emperor in Nanjing at that time, was the Ming capital, before it moved to the north, Beijing. He simply asking respect for the emperor. And in return, he give gifts, gift exchange. It is a relationship building in this diplomacy. Remember, when he went to South and Southeast Asia, 100 years later, Columbus, almost 100 years later, Christopher Columbus discovered America. They are very small, 3 ships came. Admiral Chong he handled hundreds of ships. It is a floating city. This navigational technology is so advanced. Even many of the country's leaders could not comprehend the advancement of the Ming Dynasty of navigation. But later on, the Mandarin and the business class has a conflict, and it was completely destroyed and put under the cover by the succeeding Ming emperors. So you hardly know about that civilization. But If you go to Nanjing now, you can see the Admiral Chonghe is reborn. So this is the southern route of President Xi. He rejuvenated the Admiral Chonghe, the Ming dynasty, back again. Here, Sri Lanka is the pivotal point for the Silk Road maritime strategy. President Xi went to Sri Lanka last year, and the President of Sri Lanka came early this year to Hainan via Poland. They met. This is critical for China's economic strategy. So what is this two represents? This is the expansion of that Silk Road. One is going in the northern route, and another one is going on the southern route. This Tang Dynasty, this story was retold in the Journey to the West. You heard about the monkey god and the pigs and elephants going farther. It is actually a true story. It's a monk called Xuan Zhan. It was turned into a novel in later dynasties. So it was started from the Tang Dynasty, but in the Ming Dynasty this story came in, and it's very popular even today. So what you see is this is the history coming back again to the future. Northern economic belt and the maritime Silk Road. So having said that one, what we are looking is, you are trying to see the Chinese dream for the forward by looking at the back. It is the rejuvenation of the Chinese culture and the Chinese history. So what we are going to talk about, three things over here. First, let's talk about what is the manifest destiny of America. Is it the American idea, or it is pretty much the copying from the Chinese manifest destiny applied to America's aggressive westward from the Atlantic shore to the Pacific Rim? Or is it the Monroe Doctrine? What is the Monroe Doctrine? How it is applied to China in the South China Sea? Or then, is it a Marshall Plan with the military component to it? Or is it really a Silk Road? It is a commercial purpose, which America is responding to the TPP, Trans-Pacific Partnership. Or then, what kind of prospect can we think about the Sino-American relations? Are we really wanted to create a commercial civilization? Or it is going to be a military conflict? Or we are going to have a Cold War? It's just like a former Soviet Union and America. Or what kind of future you have with the Sino-American relations? I try to argue what we are going to have is none of the things that some of the experts predict. As recently as early this year, one of the American experts said China is going to collapse. The collapse theories already collapse themselves. But I try to argue differently. What is the prospect for the Sino-American relations? So, given this one, what is the manifest destiny and the Monroe Doctrine? If you were to look at the South China Sea, Spratly Island, which I mentioned, the America claims they are rebuilding for military purposes. Is it really a military purposes? A day ago, you have a lighthouse was erected in Spratly Island by Chinese. It is for navigational purposes, to guide the ships coming through. And America said, no, we wanted to have a military exercise at 12 miles apart from these islands. So what kind of tension would create this Sino-American relation to move forward? Or if you go to the Western Sea, which is the Indian Ocean, is an American presence, also Indian presence, and the Chinese presence are there. If you were to look at it, Seychelles Islands, 3 countries are collaborating together against the common enemy of piracy. And other places where they collaborate, sometimes they have tensions. So having this one, South China Sea is what I call it the Monroe Doctrine. What is the Monroe Doctrine? Our President James Monroe said, the colonial powers of America, especially British, Spaniard, and the French, don't come over here. This is our part of the world. If you come over here, we consider it an act of war. Therefore, don't come here. This is ours. No colonial powers are allowed to come to North America and South America. But it was very popular among the Latin Americans. Even if you go to Brazil, there is a palace under the name of Palacio Mendron in Rio de Janeiro, which was built more than 100 years ago, which was popular. But the situation in South China Sea is different, of course. Like Vietnam and the Philippines are not very happy about it. So what is then the manifest destiny? Manifest destiny is a very popular idea in the middle of the 19th century. It says God has the will to expand all the way to Pacific from the 13 colonies. It was popularized by the New York Morning News editor who said, America has the manifest destiny, go to westward. Just like China's western movement of the Silk Road from Xi'an, from the ancient capital. But that was a peaceful, commercial-led movement, which is very different from the America's manifest destiny. It is an organic process. During the many centuries, many dynasties, this Silk Road was created, built, and you went westward and southward all the way to India and all the way to Europe. But America's is a policy-driven, it's a missionary front for the going westward, expanding the country. It started with the Thomas Jefferson, our 3rd president. He not only enlarged the country from the original 13 colonies on the Atlantic shore side, and we bought the Louisiana Purchase from the French, the Napoleon Bonaparte. And then we got the land from the Oregon from the British, and then we got California and Mexico by fighting with the Spaniard. Going westward is not very peaceful movement. It was many wars, conflicts, many lives were lost. So this is a going westward. It came with different episode all the way to western coast, and then we also use the land in other countries. Like we bought the Alaska from the Russians, and we took the Hawaii, and all the way we went to take over the Philippines from the Spaniard. What is the purpose? Just like the Asian Silk Road, America used the commerce, trade and commerce is our motivation. This is what we wanted to do, because trade and commerce bring people together, not the religion, not the ethnicity, not even the language. Trade and commerce bring people together, so they knew that one from the Silk Road. It is a commerce-driven Silk Road, trade-driven Silk Road. So American founding fathers, knowing that Chinese history, understood the America's secret attraction, bringing people together, is the commerce. So commerce is part of the US Constitution, the Commerce Clause. The Commerce Clause is the one that glue the 50 states together, the original 13 colonies or states together. It is not the religion, language, and the ethnicity. Look at it in the northern part of the original states were Protestant. Central part is Catholic, like Maryland. Southern is a hodgepodge of all the other kind of religious groups, mostly Catholic. Pennsylvania were Quakers. And my own state now I am living in Virginia is Protestant. And my neighboring state, Maryland, is a Catholic. So, religion is not the way to bring people together. And the ethnicity is not either. We have a German, Italian, Irish, African American, and who came in as slaves. You cannot bring them together by race either. Even not through the language, because they spoke different languages, different part of the country at that time, even now. So only way to bring the country together through the Commerce Clause. This is the most powerful two words in our Constitution. And it is still debated even today. Even President Obama's afforded the Obamacare. Whether federal government has the power or the state has the power or the local entities have the power. The Supreme Court said, no, federal government, bring the country together again, not going backward to separate it out for the state. The Commerce Clause said that. So they use the Commerce Clause as the underlying premise of the America's foundation. So therefore, what we see is this going westward strategy is commerce driven. First we have the railroads going, the Southern Railroad strategy, Union Pacific strategy, and then we have the Northern Pacific one going through the Minnesota. I grew up and went to high school in northern Minnesota. It is a railroad town. My American parents are Scandinavian. My wife is Scandinavian from Minnesota. So Minnesota is my home. It is a railroad civilization. From all the way to Twin Cities to Duluth, all the way to come to Pacific. Why do we want to go to the west? Because we want to trade with China. That is the original vision of the original charter that sent to America as a colonist. Find the shortest route to China. So Thomas Jefferson was excited about it, and he expand the land and wanted to use the navigational system all the way to Seattle. So we went Lewis and Clark expedition for that. So there was a vision, and that vision emerged and developed throughout. And when this railroad civilization created northern route and the south route, that is our manifest destiny, going westward. What is our manifest destiny ultimate goal? Creating an empire of liberty that Thomas Jefferson envisioned for America's destiny. It is not the celestial empire that China wants to create from the mandate from heaven, but it is the liberty, the freedom and democracy that is the empire of liberty. That is why we fight. That's why America went to wars, for the liberty at any price. So eventually these two notions of celestial empire and manifest destiny, or the empire of liberty, are the ideological basis that separate us. but commerce underlying bringing us together, this political ideology separates us. So having seized this one, America didn't like the colonial mindset, empire, of the colonial empire. So we got rid of them. And our commerce and trade is the primary thing that we can bring the country together. What did we do? Not only symbolic, our first merchant ships was called Emperors of China. On George Washington's birthday, we sent that one from the New York harbor to Canton, the modern day of Guangzhou, capital of Guangdong province. Why didn't we send that one to Paris or to the London or to the Lisbon, Portugal? No, we kicked out all the colonial powers, we turned to China to trade. Why? Because all the coastal region of China, where America, was very successful trading with Chinese. We got the tea culture. We got the ceramic culture, porcelain, or we call Chinaware. And then we got the silk. And these ships came back to China, were full of ginseng from the Appalachian mountain range. That created the small farmers that Thomas Jefferson talks about, a small hamlet. So America has this is the new economic civilization building through commercial intercourse between the Chinese and American businesses. So this is the Commerce Clause in action, second. It is not only that America brought together through the Commerce Clause, now we brought the China together through the Commerce Clause. Now these things begin to change. These things begin to change. First you have the ancient Silk Road, Maritime Road, presidency brought them together. Now America is using its own commercial vision to the world, to the Commerce Clause, but things change. When the first Opium War came, China has to look inward. Second Opium War came, America became inward because we have to deal with our civil war. This is the one thing that our founding fathers forgot to or did not address, the slave issue. They put it to the future generation to deal with it, so we have to war for that one to bring the country together. Slavery issue with the Northern Union forces and Southern Confederacy. China looked inward, America looked inward. When the second Opium War came, you have Taipan rebellions. Millions of people died. Rest of the world didn't even know it. America has lost, I think, very close to 750,000, close to million. But in China, many millions died in a rebellion, Taipan rebellion. So we turn inward, each countries. So then came the World War I, and then you turn internal civil war with the KMT, Kuomintang, and the nationalist and communist until Chairman Mao came in 1949. There is an internal focus, is internal issues. Sure, they had the foreign powers in the coastal region, but many things happened. So we need to focus on the internal issues, and America is focusing on the World War I and World War II, and the Cold War emerged. So now this new leadership comes in. This is the history. How can we move forward? How can we bring everything back to future generation? So now you have a new leader. He said, I have a dream. not the dream that Martin Luther King talks about in America. But American dreams also been there for a long time. But that is not to the African American. That is not to the Native Americans. We didn't have this kind of civil rights and civil obligations, rights for the African American and other minority groups. So therefore, that American dreams also evolved throughout the years. Even the Martin Luther came in, 1964 civil law enacted, we still have many problems with the race relations in the country. If you look at our prison population and the way that our police enforcement taking place, even though we have African American president. So American dreams evolved. If you talk about women, they didn't have a right to vote for more than 100 years. So American dream and equal rights also emerged. Now President Xi comes in, he said, I want to look for the future, let me go back and see the back into the history. It is pretty much Confucian. Confucian said, I'm very interested in antiquity. Therefore, I can see the future. So as an old sage, President Xi said, I can see now future if I look for the Tang dynasty and the Ming dynasty. So now he put together this strategy to see, look forward. It is the Chinese dream. And the American dream, now we have epitomized President Obama of the American dream. Now he said, I am the American dream. For example, I can be a Sri Lankan and be an American citizen. That is the privilege that nobody in the world has it. America offers that. You can be anybody from America in the world. Only you can be an American. But if you are in Germany, you never become a German or Japanese or even Chinese. But in America, you can come from anywhere in the world. You can be an American. That is the America's providence, what we call God-blessed America, because we are the children of God, can come from anywhere, then we become American. So that is the American notion. But having said that one, America's dream, how can we go westward now, not only to California, not only to the Alaska, and to the Hawaii, and to the Philippines. Now, Pacific Ocean is the American Ocean. So we need to move the same strategy going westward if you want to trade with China. So we have a Trans-Pacific partnership. Now, it is the American dream. Even the president said it is going to be a Pacific dream. You know, President Obama has a connection to the Pacific. He grew up partly in Indonesia. His stepfather was Indonesian. He traveled this part of the world. His paternal grandparents served in the British Army, first in Sri Lanka, then in Burma. So he has a connection to this region. So now American dream become a Pacific dream. And then later President Xi said, how about we combine to the Silk Road, which goes to the westward, like Kazakhstan, Turkestan, Kyrgyzstan, and West. Let's have an American. So we have an Asian Pacific dream. It's an enlargement of the China's vision. So this is where we are right now. And then the TPP and Silk Road tend to merge. Is it? Is it the question? What is the future? How can we think whether the Pacific strategy of the America or the Silk Road of China, are they come together? How we are going to go forward? And we, as we did it until the first Opium War, can we recreated this commercial civilization that America and China created each other? For almost 100 years, they did that. Can we recreate it, rebuild it, that commercial privilege, commercial civilization? So President Xi, when he went to California last time, not the recent visit, he said, let's have a new type of great power relations, because we don't want to trap into that Soviet Cold mindset, Cold War mindset. And some people, some observers, like John Mearsheimer from University of Chicago, said, well, by looking at the history, majority of the time, when the established power and the emerging power is coming, they are always into conflict. Therefore, most likely, the high probability that China as the emerging power and the America as established power naturally bound to be in conflict. So what is the major country relationship that he said? Defending the basic system and national security. He said, yes, this is CPC, Chinese Communist Party. We need to preserve that, defend that one. And this is our national security, the regional one is coming next. Is our territorial integrity, it is China's. And the third one is we need to have a peaceful development in order to maintain the economy and stability of the society. So therefore, he proposed three principles. We are not going to confront the Americans or the other countries. Second one is we need to have mutual respect. And the third one is a win-win cooperation. What you are here right now, which I think is all of these three represented in a microcosm. You have a win-win situation. You have American professors and from other countries. I saw your biography, very impressive faculty here. And the students engaging with the American professors and then also the Chinese professors and administrators. This is a win-win situation. Mutual respect, no confrontation. These are very much Confucian and traditional Chinese values. This is not only happening here, it is happening in other places as well, like the University of Nottingham in Ningbo. Nanjing University has a relationship with the Johns Hopkins University. New York University has a relationship with East China Normal University in Shanghai. Many academics come to American universities, and more than 250,000 Chinese are in American universities. This is what I think is going to emerge, not what John Mearsheimer talking about the conflict. When he says there is a conflict because of looking at their neighbors in the Vietnam and the Philippines, I could not imagine, if you look at the Chinese-American history, which I talked about earlier, and even the relationship what we have right now, more than 250,000 Chinese students in American universities. They come over here with a certain kind of respect to the American ideas and American ideals. Then China, when I first came, and now, a remarkable transformation. When I was in Xi'an, I used to ride bicycles. And I have a dusty apartment. And today I went with Dr. Hanke to your student housing. It is amazing. This is a graduate level housing you have actually. When I go to the Beida or the Tsinghua, other universities, you have a much high quality housing, student housing. Even compared to, I didn't have a hot water, and I was lucky when I had a water in Xi'an. I went several days without taking shower. I wet the towels up and keep it for 2 days in case if I need to just wipe my face before I go to the classroom. So now it's amazing China, this transformation is unbelievable. So when you look at these two countries now, what drives these two countries? Nothing but commerce. This is the history of China. In the history of China, you have a mandate from heaven. Until the end of the Qing dynasty, when Dr. Sun Yat-sen came into power, in the father of modern China, in 1911, you have this coin for millennia. What is that symbolizing? The coin is the medium of commerce, medium of trade. That symbolize the heaven is round, earth is square. Now heaven and earth together bring people together. That's the medium of commerce. So therefore commerce bring the people together. The money bring the people together. It doesn't matter you are making hamburger or the Kentucky Fried Chicken. You never become an American. If you eat Indian food, you never become an Indian. If I eat every Friday, my home is a tradition of eating Chinese food, I never become Chinese. But that commerce, that the medium and trade brings people together. So that is what the China's history tells you, and the future will tell you about the same thing. And then second, when we go to ours, we put the in God we trust into our coin. In God we trust, bringing people together through money. As long as you have a credit card or wallet, you are an American. As long as you have a wallet and credit card, you are a Chinese. If you have an American credit card and Chinese credit card, which I do, I'm a Chimerican. So what we are going to have is that kind of world. It is not the world that I think is John Mearsmeimer is speaking about. Because we are too integrated through commerce, investment, trade, and educational exchanges, and cultural exchanges are so big, so concrete to each other. So this is, as I said, America evolved the American dream. American dream was not for everybody at the very beginning. Women were property and they worked for the women's suffrage. More than 100 years later, African Americans are not part of the American dream. Even the Martin Luther King has to say, wait a minute, listen to the Thomas Jefferson. That is the America's dream. We are created equal. So American dream evolved for the American people, or all American people. China did the same thing. China is also experimenting that. First you have a Confucius culture, and then a nationalist republic came in Dr. Sun Yat-sen, Chairman Mao came, and Deng Xiaoping came with economic liberalization, and then the Chinese dream rolled back again to the Confucius culture. He wanted to bring the Confucius values again to China, because it is a hierarchical, it is a relationship-based system. So therefore, what is the American experience? American experience is when we have Alexander Hamilton, our first Secretary of the Treasury. He wanted to concentrate of the power in the federal government in Washington, D.C., not the state, not the local. Thomas Jefferson said, no, America has to be a democracy. Democracy should be governed by from the bottom, not the central government. So this the argument from the power of the central government in Washington at the state level and the local level always in conflict. That create creative energies. How to resolve this one? How can we keep the union together? At the same time, I am a Californian, I am a Texan, I am from Maine, I am from Illinois or Minnesotan. But we are, as a nation, one nation under God. So therefore, we have Hamiltonian ideas of the, he's like imperial empire. He has a British mindset. Jefferson is the guy at the bottom, the founder of the University of Virginia, where my daughter went to school. So this Jeffersonian ideas and Hamiltonian ideas coming in conflict. Because of him, because of the freedom that he advocated, liberty, the empire of liberty, Martin Luther King activated him. Nobody was talking about him. If you go to Washington, he has a very little statue in the front of the Treasury Department. There's a huge dome for him because America looked to him. It's an American vision, the empire of liberty, the freedom for all, that kind of thing. So my argument is, America evolved all the way through Hamiltonian ideas, and we became a Jeffersonian nation for the African American and to the Native American and everybody else. What we are living in a Jeffersonian dream. But the Hamilton mechanism, strong nation, strong navy, strong economy, just like a Deng Xiaoping spoke about it. It doesn't matter. It is a black cat or white cat, as long as that cat catch a mouse is a good cat. For him, that's the same thing. So now we have a Jeffersonian end. Is China is going that way? Will people will ask more Jeffersonian ideals when they have more money, when the middle class become bigger? Are they happy with what you have? Is your Mercedes-Benz and BMW is good enough? So this is what I call what is the end game. America evolved throughout the years for our end game. It's end up at least now with the President Barack Obama. The end game, the Jeffersonian highlight. We went westward, we have a Hamiltonian means to business. So I wrote about this book, Trade for Peace, America's Vision. Even if you look at our foreign policy, this is what is driving. If you don't believe me, look at what is happening in Beijing and Washington. They are negotiating bilateral investment treaty, BIT, between your Ministry of Commerce and the USTR, US Trade Office, negotiating. These are Hamiltonian ideas. Now we have a Pacific Trade Pact and you have a Silk Road trade mechanism. We are acting on him. So what is the end game? Are we both bring this trade for peace, or are we going to have a conflict? Or are we going to have tension on the way? I used to say this way. Of course, whenever there is a relationship, there is tension. Think about many of you have girlfriends and boyfriends. You have a fight over whether you want to eat the Chinese food, McDonald's or KFC. You don't fight over that one. One I said, no, I like KFC. I said, no, I like hamburger. So we resolve somehow, you don't break up. So this is the kind of tension back and forth that would have the future of Chino-American relationship. Because you cannot recall the 300,000 Chinese students studying in America. You cannot recall all the American companies working over here. We have to work together. If you look at the presidency introduced that Infrastructure Development Bank. America said to the British and to the German and to the French, don't join Chinese. Did they listen? No. They are original members. Even India came, Australia came. Only 2 countries didn't come to join your original Infrastructure Development Bank is Japan and the US. Even the US supported 2 global institutions, the World Bank and the Asian Development Bank, largely funded by the Japanese. They said, yes, we will work with the Asian Infrastructure Investment Bank, AIIB. So, here we go. Alexander Hamilton is speaking for you. What is the end game? I do not know how the Jefferson will emerge, but I can give you some clues. Your previous Wenzhou premier said, we cannot get the fruits of our development, our modernization, cannot have it unless we have the freedom, he said in the White House paper in 2005. You also introduced the intra-party democracy inside the Communist Party because you have a consultative process. So these are signs in even the CPC. They are gradually wanted to change into that kind of a world. But I do not know. That is why US foreign policy or the US government policy is we wanted to have a strong China. We wanted to have a stable China. We wanted to have a prosperous China. Because why? Because it's good for him. Our first Secretary of State. Because it makes you rich and make us rich. It is the national interest. Once that happened, I do not know which way that Jefferson follows it in China. Remember, China is very, very confident about its path. As I said, more than 250,000 Chinese students in American universities. Now, last year alone, over 110 million Chinese travel abroad. This is unprecedented. China has the remarkable confidence in their people. Go, see the world. So therefore, there is Jefferson's is coming, but I do not know which form. It doesn't have to be American way. It doesn't have to be a German way because we created that nation. It doesn't have to be in a Japanese way. We created that nation and the constitution and we changed it until recently. We have a British system. Still the Queen is there. There is a mandate from heaven is still there. You have a mandate of heaven in Tokyo too. So can we bring China into the Chinese vision? This is a dream. But if you go to any city in China, I traveled to 22 provinces, including Macau, Hong Kong, and Taiwan, and also Tibet. Everywhere you go, you have a China dream. What are the words? What are the phrases? They use amazingly. They use the liberty, the freedom, democracy, harmony, stability, respect. These are the words that China uses. What does that mean? How this transform? China has a vision. It has to come in a Chinese way. It's with what you call the Chinese characteristic. And that is the kind of end game I am visualizing for you. Thank you very much.
We're going to entertain some questions. Anybody wants to ask the speaker any questions? Yes.
Thank you for your sophisticated speech. I want to ask one question. It may be somewhat sensitive, but there is a doubt in my heart that it's about human rights issue. It has always been an issue between the Sino-US relationship, especially since 1989. The U.S. have banned China from the international activities for a long time because of the problem. The event happened in 1989. And it is business and commerce that opened up the new era of the Sino-US Sino-US relationship. But the human rights issue has always been the obstacle between the development of the Sino-US relation. Even now, sometimes U.S. blame China for its persecuting some group of people. So I wonder whether this issue is going to still be a very big obstacle between the relationship when the commerce and the trading between between China and the U.S. is going very well. Thank you.
It's a very good question. Thank you for asking. Remember, I mentioned you several times. America did not have a democracy. For who? Native Americans? No. We persecuted them. Our President Andrew Jackson persecuted, they moved the Native Americans westward. They called the Trail of Tears. Women didn't have a right to vote. Where is their human rights until 400 years? How about African Americans? They didn't have any civil rights. Where is their human rights until Martin Luther came and reminded them, this is America. Why didn't we have the same right to vote? Why did we are slaves? That's the human rights, am I right? If you look at it right now, what is going on some of the police brutality. Where is their human rights? Percentage of the African American in our prisons are higher, much higher than the white Americans. Where is their human right? Why is it proportionately higher? So sometimes when we try to preach others, we sometimes forget about our own history. I often reminded people, whether we are talking about Uyghurs in Xinjiang province, in Tibet, in Xishan province. Look at their life when the Uyghurs came and blew up in front of the Tiananmen Square, and Kunming and Guangzhou. Chinese government has obligations to protect the innocent people. They cannot come and use the knife and blow up and things like that. They have obligation to do something about it. In the Tibetan issue, it's a little bit more complicated. But I think if you go to Lhasa, they will tell you a different story than what you see in the Western media. So point is, sometimes we tell our children, do this, don't do this. But sometimes if these children are really smart enough and turn around and say, father, mother, why don't you do it that way? I know we are very preaching society. We tell others how to behave. Sometimes we forget ourselves. Henry Kissinger said, we are a missionary nation. We go and like a missions and tell them how to behave themselves. I think on the balance, I often tell my colleague at the State Department one time, I told in even a meeting, you know, sometimes we have to be careful when you tell the foreigners how to change their domestic policies, whether it's a human rights or there is a monetary or fiscal policies. Because through the Bretton Woods institution, we tell the world open up their economies when we have protected our sectors of the economy. So it is very hard. So I suggest is, my suggestion is, even if somebody tell you what to do, you need to turn ask as, are you doing the same thing you are telling me to do? Sometimes we need to remind ourselves where we came from rather than preaching others.
Other questions? Thank you.
Hi. As my question is, as we remember, China spent so many years on negotiation for getting into the WTO. So after that, China become second largest entity in the world. So then maybe someone think China got too much benefits from the WTO. Then after that, as we know, the new the TTP just came out. So also as we know, China didn't sign the TTP. Then someone think maybe China should find another way to for the international trade rule. So my question is, what do you think is kind of opinion for China make the new seed road you mentioned before as the strategy against the isolation from the TTP?
Good question. The question is, China became WTO. Actually, during the Clinton administration, we pushed for China to become a member because we knew stronger China, stable China, and prosperous China is good for the America's national interest. Now, we excluded China through our TPP negotiation, but this is the question. Some of the TPP members have bilateral trade agreements with China. Australia, Chile, New Zealand, South Korea, and also Singapore. These are American friends. So now they are overlapping with TPP and the China's bilateral relations. China is also preparing for this TPP for last few years. You have Shanghai Free Trade Zone. You are reforming your legal structure inside China. And now you are pushing for the SOEs, state-owned enterprises, to reform. Knowing that when the America is ready, China is also ready. When the current Secretary of the Treasury came, before President President Xi went to state visit last month, he asked the same question. Will America invite China to be part of it? This is another complication comes in. While these things are going on, simultaneously we are negotiating with the Bilateral Investment Treaty, BIT, which is a very complicated negotiations because the different sectors has different motivations and engagement level in the country. Some sectors are open in China, some sectors are not open in China. Manufacturing sectors are very open, but some sectors like communication is not open, like Google. Facebook, so forth. Now, this negotiation in the different sectors are different. But when the bilateral investment treaty comes, it also overlaps with the TPP. The question is, how can we have a standardization of these two legal frameworks? These are legal works. So my thinking is, now because whatever the political philosophy you have between China and America, the drivers behind this are not governments. The agent of change in this globalization or integration are companies. Countries don't trade, but companies do. We cannot tell that university or this university to have a link program with that university or that university in China. We cannot tell Goldman Sachs or American Express, Visa or MasterCard how to behave in the world of commerce. White House cannot control that. So they drive wherever they can make money. The Hamilton comes. So therefore, these drivers between these negotiations are companies. Their motivation intersect with the national security of the country. Few years ago, you cannot buy a Huawei phone in America. Now just go to the Walmart in Oregon or Chicago, Minnesota, anywhere. You can buy a Huawei phone. Market access opened. So this is why I said these companies are the drivers of this integration. And the universities like you are the drivers this integration. I'm guaranteeing 5 to 10 years from you, I think about more than 50% of you will visit America. And some of them I know already been to America and studied there. Some Chinese, my new colleague here, friend. So this is the kind of world I think will emerge in the future. America and China is inseparable together, because now you can see all the signs. And when President Xi went to, before he met with his counterpart in the White House, where did he go? Who did he talk to? He went to Seattle, Washington, other Washington. That one is equally more powerful than the Washington, D.C. Who did he talk to? President Xi talked to Bill Gates, Mark Zuckerberg, before he went to talk to other leaders in the White House. So they are the drivers. President Xi knew what I was talking about. He talked to the real drivers of the American and the Chinese economy. So therefore, what I think is, you will have Google coming back, because he talked to Google. Mark Zuckerberg, whose wife is Chinese, he will come back to Facebook over here. Because President Xi talked to and have a meal with them and talk to them privately. So this is the strategy of China. China knew where the real power is, talking to the top business executives in Seattle before he talks about the president. These companies and lobbyists will tell the president, a president, or the Hillary Clinton, or the, not Donald Trump, but Jack Bush or the others, come. If you want to do this, if you want to have a campaign finance, let's slow down over here, because we have our business interest, which is the national interest, collectively speaking. So this is the way I look at it, the real dynamism. It is what is really happening. Why President Xi went to Seattle first before he went to the other power in the other Washington.
All right, we take one more question.
Yes.
Michael, do you mind if we have this?
Thank you, Doctor. We all know as China develops, China has more voice than before. Now China is the second economic power in the world. Somebody thinks it has enough power to replace USA. But I think the Obama won't see this situation happen. Somebody thinks a war with Cuba and new trade. What's your opinion? Whether China will have a trading more with USA, or a real war to prove himself, or just to be peace?
I didn't quite understand. Nuclear, what? Did you say something nuclear?
Oh, I beg your pardon.
You said earlier, very at the very end something. Say it again.
Okay, need I pardon the all?
Did you write it down?
Yeah, yeah.
Got it. Thank you. Yeah, he is essentially asking that China is becoming economic power, the second largest. Actually, according to the purchasing power parity, PPP, China is the number one. If you look at the number of cars you have, as of last November, you have the highest cars in the world in a country. A couple days ago, Secretary John Kerry said, surely, he said, surely China is the number one. Go to your YouTube or even the Chinese news channels. It says you can see the Secretary John Kerry's interview. China is the number one. Look at it this way. Yes, per capita wise, no, it's very low. Because you have 1.4 billion people compared to 400 some million people in America. But in terms of the GDP, gross domestic product, or GNP, gross national product, you have the largest economy very soon. But the PPP, purchasing per capita according to the IMF and the World Bank, you are the largest economy. So that is already given. In the years to come, when the China integrated into the Silk Road and going westward, you have a much larger economy than America. That's the question is, how can we have the peace and stability and order in the region, and on the way, other countries become wealthier as well? Your neighbors, for example. So these are the side effects of the better Sino-American relations. My thinking is, if you look at it 300 years before, China is the largest economy in the world. Okay? And the second one is Europe. But it is, I think, emerging. I didn't go into that part because I have some other data to prove that. So the question is, will China be a better global power than America is? Is China is going to get engaged in other conflicts like in Afghanistan and Iraq or now in Syria? Or it has a different strategy in their foreign policy that reflect the Confucius view of the world? Or is China going to have a missionary mindset, just like America has? Tell everybody how to behave and what to do and so forth. So I think for the future in the Sino-American relations, if you look at it, the American foreign policy, we really recognize China's emergence. Good China is good China, better China is better for America. Stability is better for us. And matter of fact, we are providing some joint leadership. If you look at climate change, we need to have these two nations join together the climate change, provide the world leadership for India to come along and to Europe to come along with us. Cyber security, now they are talking about the cyber security. Can we have a protocol, whether they are to engage in what kind of cyber security you want to have, a traditional sense of national for the national security or the commercial aspect of it. So they are now negotiating that. And President Xi is taking many, many steps toward that part. America is concerned about that issue. So many things are happening behind the scene. Bilateral trade investment and greater exchange of ideas and knowledge base. And now we have greater commerce exchange back and forth, both countries. So this is better for China, it's better for America. I think this is the kind of the world that I think that both countries are envisioning for the future. It all depends on one factor is alone. It is what kind of leadership whether China is, America is going to provide the world. If their leaders are wise, if leaders are, they can think further, then we have a much better world. But if you have some leaders trying to shoot that everything moves, then we have a problem in the world. So if you have wise leaders who are well educated in the history, so they can see the future. Fathers you can see, then you can, fathers forward you can see of the future. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. This was a very enlightening lecture, Dr. Mendis. I'm sure those who are left here agree. Thank you all for coming out. I hope you enjoyed what you heard this afternoon and gives you food for thought. All right, thank you very much. Thanks also to the faculty who came. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye.
Wenzhou is upcoming and very emerging place for me because I can see the economy is very dynamic and also the people are very entrepreneurial type. And it is an amazing place for me to visit this place for the first time. But I went to Zhejiang province many times, especially to the Hangzhou, where I am a visiting professor in international politics at the Zhejiang University in Hangzhou. But first time to Wenzhou. I heard many things about Wenzhou because it is an international city for throughout the many centuries. So I think there's an entrepreneurial spirit is still here with both commercial and economic and trade aspect, as well as the Wenzhouian diaspora around the world that brings the international flavor to here. So by looking at the student population and the leadership of both China and the academic faculty here, it is a very impressive combination. There is a dynamism and excitement and openness to ideas are still here. And students are very impressive in the sense their language skill and understanding the world affairs are very, very good. I can see China has a very bright future emerging from Wenzhou, and I wish these students continue to work hard, study hard, and go abroad and learn from other countries and other cultures, and also visit America. And then I think both countries have a better relations, a better understanding between the two. I think they are the future. I think Wenzhou can make a very positive contribution to the Zhejiang province and also to China at large. I think it is a great legacy and to Chinese people to look Wenzhou's history and look at the future by looking at also the Wenzhou's history.
to see a better future for the students and the people in the Wenzhou prefecture. Thank you very much. Some of the students I met are outstanding. They are very eager to learn and thirsty for learning about other cultures and other views. I can see from the audience and their questions. And their ideas are very deep, and we are not afraid to ask questions. And I was really, really impressed by their knowledge and the way progressive thinking about asking questions and even the sensitive issues. And it is a pleasant surprise to see that China is progressing in a certain way, that Chinese students are not afraid to ask questions, which is impressive.